Credit card debt is the highest in decades, $930 billion, up 15% from last year. The average interest rate is now 19%. That's the highest since Bankrate started tracking interest rates for credit cards in 1985. As the Fed, we've heard about this, the Fed is increasing interest rates. The interest rates we all pay on our credit cards, of course, our mortgages, car loans, will only go up and up and up as the Federal Reserve tries to end inflation. The more you spend on interest, the less you have to spend. The less we all have to spend, therefore, the more companies lay off employees, and the circle just keeps going around. And fine, inflation might be going down. That doesn't mean prices are anywhere close to going down. In fact, prices are still going up, just not quite as fast. Consider the price of Thanksgiving next week, as reported by our friends at Axios. Year over year, a 16-pound turkey now costs almost $30, 21% more than the average cost a year ago. All right. The survey found holiday staples with the biggest prices increases include a 14 bag of cube stuffing, up 69%, 2 frozen pie crusts, up 26%, whipped cream, also up 26%, just in 1 year. A pound of frozen peas, up 23%. I never liked peas, but there you go. Frozen dinner rolls, up 22%. 30-ounce can of pumpkin pie mix, up 18%. In total, Thanksgiving will cost the average American family 21% more than last year. Kayla Bruun is here with us, financial expert for TD Ameritrade, among others. Kayla, appreciate you being with us. Is there any reason to think the story of economic pain is over?
I wouldn't say it's over, but we are seeing some signs of hope. Most recently, of course, we had the CPI report last week, the Consumer Price Index, where really our look at consumer inflation. And as you did mention in your segment, inflation slowed more than people expected. And that was the first sort of positive surprise we've had with inflation slowing faster than expected in a while. So that was a really good sign. It's one of those things where, of course, the level is still way too high. Up 7.7% in the latest report at the top line, and core inflation, that stickier inflation, up 6.3%. We really need those numbers closer to around 2%. That's the Fed's target. But it is slowing considerably from where it was. As you can see in the graphic, in June, we had it much higher. So we're heading in the right direction, but it's still bad.
Obviously, inflation, is a lagging indicator, right? Because that's what has happened. But we have yet to really see the effects of people slowing down their spending simply because they're scared. If people follow Jeff Bezos' advice and don't buy as many televisions from Amazon this Christmas, that starts a whole different cycle come January, February, March of next year.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We have started to see some indications of how inflation is affecting consumer spending. We actually, at Morning Consult, have some surveys that track this specifically. And what we were seeing, especially through September, as inflation really was staying, up above that 8% level, consumers were trading down more. They were walking away from discretionary purchases, spending more on essentials that they had no choice to spend more on, which had gotten more expensive. So it was starting to crowd out spending. But what was interesting and surprised me a little, but in a good way, was that we really did see spending rebound a bit in October. We had a pretty strong retail report out today.
Are we right to look at the tech layoffs as the canary in the coal mine for layoffs in the rest of the general sectors of America? Think about it, retail, manufacturing, and the like.
It's a really good question. I would say potentially, but not necessarily. What we do know is that as long as inflation stays high and interest rates continue to climb, the Fed's job is not done. We are anticipating that unemployment is likely to keep rising as long as interest rates, stay high, keep going up, as they're expected to do with inflation still not under control. So unemployment overall, we can expect that number to rise a bit, but what's promising is that it hasn't come up that much yet. So we sort of have the labor market still in a relatively, at the aggregate.
Well, let me ask you, Kyle, how do we divorce or explain the huge bifurcation in the numbers that we see and what we hear from analysts such as yourself, I mean, no disrespect, and what we hear when we talk to voters and consumers, right track, wrong track, do you feel better financially 2 years ago, from 2 years ago to now, and the like? How do we explain those two different economic pictures?
There are absolutely a lot of mixed signals. Inflation is one of the most visible signs, and specifically gas prices, especially over the summer, they've come down a bit, still really high compared to a year ago, but there's these very visible signals of prices going up, and that's something that hits consumers very directly, and they feel it a lot.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.